Next up on our list is going to be the bar chord / power chords. Now, this right here is going to be the reason why I taught you using the E major chord when we had learned that a few lessons back without using the index finger, because basically you're going to be using the index finger to bar across the strings. And so it's going to be the same formation as the E major, but you're going to slide that forward and you're going to use the index finger to bar across the strings. And depending on where your index finger is on string 6 will determine which bar chord you're going to be using. See, basically, if you scroll down, I've got lists of different bar chords. And if you'll notice on there, index fingers be barred across the different strings. And depending on which fret you have that at, that formation will determine which chord that you're going to be playing. A few things I just wanted to kind of point out before we get going into this is that bar chords and power chords are going to have the exact same formation. It's just going to kind of determine whether you call it a bar chord or a power chord going off of the type of music that you're going to be playing. So if you're going to be playing something that will have like a lighter sound, such as like standard praise and worship, country, folk, or all the many different styles that would be more softer, you'd refer to that as a bar chord. If you're planning on playing different variations of rock music, using more of like a heavier distortion, usually at that point would be when they would be considered as power chords. And most of the stuff that we're going to be getting into from this point on is going to be more geared toward rock music. So chances are we'll be calling these power chords more than anything. But just to reemphasize, power chords, bar chords are the same formation. It just goes off of the style of music that you're going to play. Also, bar chords, power chords can be played on either an acoustic guitar or an electric guitar. So with that being said, to all the different people that are going to be learning to play the guitar on the acoustic using these lessons, you can still use an acoustic guitar to do the bar chords or power chords. It's just you're not going to have the same sound that would be coming out of an electric guitar. Okay, now as you're listening to this recording, go ahead and scroll down. You're going to want to come across a section that says you'll need to learn these notes on the 6th string, the low E. Now keep in mind the 6th string, the low E, is going to be the thickest string on the guitar. And so basically what we're going to be doing is just kind of focusing on the fret that you're going to have your index finger. So basically if you've got the E major formation already set up with your finger, now if you slide your fingers across, just go forward 1 and use your index finger barring at the 1st fret, you will have the F major. Now if you scroll down to where you can see the diagram that I have on here of the F major bar chord, I've got the E major right next to it. So look at the E major first. You can see the fingers that you're using, the ring, pinky, middle finger, are all going to be identical to the F major as far as the placing that they're going to be at. And so the index finger is going to kind of act as the bar that's actually going to be the nut on the guitar, which would be basically the thicker line that I have, which refers to the nut on the guitar, which is right next to the headstock. And so anyway, the index finger is going to act specifically as that, so it's going to be kind of stopping the sound right there. Now jumping back up just a little bit on the web page, if you'll notice how I have the frets, I've got them all listed out, basically being from open all the way up to fret 12. And if you'll notice, the open and the fret 12 are the exact same note. It's going to be this way on every string. So basically on the 5th string, which is A, an open A is going to be exactly the same as the A at the 12th fret, and so on with each of the strings. And so, but we'll work on that in the next lesson. Right now we're just kind of focusing on the low E string. And so anyway, going through here, if you look at fret 3 is going to be a G. When you play a G power chord, it's actually going to be interchangeable with a regular G chord. And so any chords that you've played so far, you can actually interchange those with power chords and end up with a very similar sound. So you can do that in different songs that you'll be working on from this point forward. Okay, now if you don't have your guitar in hand yet, go ahead and get your guitar out. What I'm going to do is have you run through some of the different bar chords that are on the list. So basically what you're going to want to do is go ahead and start off with your finger formation as the E major. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and strum, say, about 4 times, and then we're going to switch to the next power chord, which would be the F major. Strum about 4 times, go ahead and move forward to the F sharp major, and just run through the different chords. And so, anyway, this is going to be kind of a great little way to get yourself familiar with how simple power chords are. Basically, all you're really going to do is just slide forward each time whenever you go from, say, the E to the F, to the F sharp, to the G, to the G sharp, to the A, all the way to the 12th fret, which would be the E major again. It's just going to be at a different pitch than the E major that would be considered the open. And so, anyway, let's go ahead and start. Here's the E major, F major bar chord, F sharp major bar chord, G major bar chord, G sharp major bar chord, A major bar chord, A sharp major bar chord, B major bar chord. Alright, that's probably good right there. One thing I would recommend doing is play around with the different finger placings for setting up the different bar chords a little bit before you actually move on to doing the practice rhythm. Kind of get yourself a little bit familiar with where the different bar chords are. One of the things that I would recommend as you're first learning these is to get really familiar with where the notes are on the thickest string, the 6th string. This will allow you to be able to jump around from chord to chord a little bit faster if you're really familiar with where it's at. Use a tuner. If you have your tuner plugged into your guitar, you can kind of see what note is going to be on that string at that fret. And so anyway, go ahead and play around, and once you get familiar with where these different bar chords are at, go ahead and move on to the Lesson 8 practice rhythm, and we'll go ahead and actually start making some music using the information that you just learned. So go ahead and play around, get yourself familiar, and then once you're familiar, go ahead and get going with a practice rhythm.